After Russia bragged about testing a new nuclear powered cruise missile, President Trump fired back with a threat of his own, a warning about what's waiting just off Russia's shoreline. And here I was, hoping that the Cold War was over. Perhaps what's old is new again. I'll have those details. President Trump issued one of his strongest warnings yet to Vladimir Putin, this time in unmistakably nuclear terms. When reporters asked about Moscow's recent test of its latest cruise missile while aboard Air Force One on Monday, Trump said, quote, "They know we have a nuclear submarine, the greatest in the world, right off their shore," end quote. The remark came a day after Russian President Vladimir Putin appeared on state TV in military fatigues. Well, isn't that just like Action Jackson? To hail what Moscow calls a successful test of its so-called invincible missile, a nuclear-powered weapon nicknamed the Burevestnik. We covered that story here on the PDB yesterday. It's the same missile that Western experts have described as a flying Chernobyl because it uses a small nuclear reactor for propulsion. Now, Trump's comment makes a sharp escalation in rhetoric, of course. Reporters aboard the plane say Trump's tone was firm but measured. He told the press, quote, "We test missiles all the time. We don't need to go 8,000 miles. He then turned to Putin's ongoing war in Ukraine, adding, quote, "He ought to get the war ended. A war that should have taken 1 week is now entering its 4th year," end quote. The Kremlin fired back quickly. In a statement Monday, a spokesman said Russia would continue to act, quote, "based on its own national interests," calling Trump's remarks unconstructive. Well, so was that invasion of Ukraine. It's the same kind of phrasing that Moscow often uses to brush off Western pressure, but the timing is important. Putin made his missile announcement on Sunday, clearly aiming to project strength, and Trump's response put the focus right back on Russia's grinding war. And that war continues to hit closer to home for the Kremlin. This week, Moscow and several Russian regions were rocked by explosions as officials claim to have shot down nearly 200 Ukrainian drones. Russia's defense ministry said its air defenses intercepted 193 drones across multiple regions, calling it one of the largest attacks of the war. Local governors reported fires and debris damage, and one civilian was confirmed killed. Ukraine hasn't commented publicly, but independent analysts say these long-range drone raids are part of Kyiv's widening campaign to strike inside Russian territory, targeting air bases, fuel facilities, and command centers hundreds of miles from the front lines. And one of those targets appears to have been a dam. Satellite imagery released Monday shows severe flooding in Russia's Belgorod region following what Moscow says was a Ukrainian attack on the Belgorod Reservoir. Photos from the site show large sections of the dam collapsed, with floodwaters inundating nearby villages and farmland. Analysts say the strike was likely designed to disrupt Russian troop movements and supply routes along the border, not to cause mass civilian damage. It's the latest in a series of operations that suggest Ukraine is becoming bolder in taking the war to Russian soil, especially as Western nations loosen restrictions and U.S. sanctions on Russia tighten. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky praised the Trump administration's latest sanctions package, telling Axios that they will make a difference, but that more pressure is needed to end the war. Zelensky said, quote, "If there are no negotiations, there will be escalation anyway. If Putin doesn't stop, we need something to stop him." So, between Moscow's nuclear bragging, Trump's warning shot from Air Force One, and Ukraine's continuing deep strikes inside Russian territory, there appears to be no off-ramp, at least in the near future. All right, before we go to break, a quick announcement. The 6th episode of our special series, The Day the World Almost Ended, is out now. It's the series where we look back at the moments when the world came right to the edge of nuclear disaster and somehow pulled back from the brink. This latest episode tells the story of Able Archer 1983, a Cold War game that took realism to a new level, convincing the Soviets that a nuclear strike was underway. You can hear that episode and all the previous ones by becoming a premium member of the PDB. Just head on over to pdbpremium.com. It's really that simple. Okay, coming up next, Israel accuses UN peacekeepers of shooting down one of its drones, as President Trump continues his Far East trip with new trade deals targeting China's influence. I'll be right back. Hey, Mike Baker here. Let me ask you a question about your personal finances. Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is notifying consumers of debt relief that is now being made available and is designed to aid consumers who have out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program may only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. It's not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it could end your debt nightmare and save you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living continues to rise. To learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, just check in with Debt Relief Advocates. Simply go online and visit DRA.com. Again, that's DRA.com. Welcome back to the PDB. An Israeli drone was shot down over the Lebanese border, setting off a volley of accusations between Jerusalem and UN peacekeepers in what's becoming another growing flashpoint along the volatile frontier. According to an IDF spokesman, an Israeli intelligence-gathering drone was on a, quote, routine reconnaissance mission near the Lebanese border town of Kfar Kila Sunday when the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, or UNIFIL, the forces opened fire. The spokesman said the UAV posed, quote, no threat whatsoever to the peacekeepers. Israeli troops later dispatched a second drone to drop a grenade near the crash site. That's a controlled action, the military said, meant to destroy sensitive equipment, but stressed they did not fire on UN forces. The UNIFIL, however, tells a different story. The UN peacekeeping mission claimed its patrol acted in self-defense after a drone, quote, flew over in an aggressive manner in Lebanese airspace, prompting what it called, quote, defensive countermeasures to neutralize it. In its statement, UNIFIL accused Israel of showing, quote, disregard for the safety and security of peacekeepers carrying out their Security Council mandate. Now, here's where both sides' accounts of the event overlap. Israel and UNIFIL acknowledged that a grenade was dropped near the crash site from a second Israeli drone. However, UNIFIL also alleges that a tank round was later fired in the peacekeepers' direction, a claim that Israel flatly denies. The IDF insists the drone was operating within standard parameters and that the UNIFIL's response was unprovoked and unjustified. Israel fears that the peacekeepers' mission plan is slipping, that it's no longer functioning as a neutral, stabilizing force along the border, and incidents like this show it's losing control of the situation that it was meant to manage. UNIFIL maintains that its troops acted appropriately. Mission officials said the drone flew directly over the patrol in an alleged provocative manner, prompting them to respond. The UN has kept its tone measured so far, but its statements imply that Israeli flight activity, not the peacekeeper actions, is to blame for rising tensions along the frontier. This incident follows our coverage last week of Israel intensifying strikes across southern Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah arms depots and command sites. Some of those recent strikes, according to Israeli officials, hit active Hezbollah training compounds and missile facilities near the Syria-Lebanon border, further emphasizing the need for the UNIFIL to intensify its mission to disarm Hezbollah. The pressure, meanwhile, is building on the Lebanese government, which, under U.S. mediation, has begun hesitant steps toward disarming the Iran-backed group. It's a move that Hezbollah's leadership has fiercely resisted. Israel, for its part, has made it clear that its patience with Beirut's paralysis of removing Hezbollah weapons is wearing thin. As regular PDB listeners will remember, under the terms of the November ceasefire that ended Israel's war with Hezbollah, the IDF were to withdraw from southern Lebanon while Hezbollah pulled north of the Litani River. Only the Lebanese army and UNIFIL were to remain. Yet Israel maintains a small presence at several strategic points, a precaution, Jerusalem maintains, against Hezbollah's continuing fortifications just beyond the designated line. Looking ahead, UNIFIL's mandate runs through 2026, but its credibility may not last that long if it's seen as engaging Israeli assets rather than monitoring them. Any erosion of neutrality risks unraveling the fragile calm along one of the Middle East's many tense borders. Okay, shifting to Malaysia. where President Trump is finishing up the first leg of his Asia tour, sealing a series of trade deals and cementing American economic influence in China's backyard. In Kuala Lumpur, Trump stood alongside Southeast Asian leaders as he announced the new PACs, partnerships designed to tilt the region's balance of power back toward Washington. The president called the deals, quote, a mission of friendship and goodwill, but his intent was clear. It was a show of American influence and reminder that Washington's role in the Indo-Pacific extends well beyond tariffs or trade disputes. According to the U.S. Trade Representative's office, the agreements made with both Malaysia and Cambodia go far beyond market access. They bind both nations to work with Washington on export controls, investment screening, and enforcement against tariff evasion by so-called, quote, third countries. That's diplomatic shorthand for China. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer hailed them as, quote, landmark deals, arguing they prove Trump's strategy works, keeping tariffs high enough to protect American industries while opening new markets for farmers and ranchers and manufacturers. The president's approach has been consistent, using tariff pressure to draw nations to the table, then offering access to the American market as the incentive. Earlier this year, he warned Southeast Asian economies of steep penalties unless they rebalance trade. Now, the duties have remained firm at 19 to 20%, middle ground that ushers in strength without alienating allies. Thailand and Vietnam followed suit Sunday. The Thai framework mirrors the new deals, pledging to, quote, strengthen economic and national security cooperation while taking aim at, quote, unfair trade practices of third parties. But it was Vietnam that gave President Trump his headline victory. The two nations unveiled a, quote, reciprocal, fair, and balanced trade agreement framework that keeps most of Trump's 20% tariffs intact while lifting duties on select goods to be negotiated later. The statement's tone, however, reflected Hanoi's careful balancing act, deepening trade ties with Washington without provoking possible retaliation from Beijing. Vietnam, whose trade surplus with the U.S. reached $123 billion last year, agreed to give American products, quote, preferential access and implement sweeping reforms on intellectual property, medical imports, and pharmaceutical regulation. And the deliverables came fast. Vietnam Airlines, the country's flag carrier, confirmed its purchase of 50 Boeing jets worth more than $8 billion, alongside nearly $3 billion in agricultural deals between American exporters and Vietnamese buyers. According to a White House statement, both countries agreed to continue working to finalize the agreement's terms and implement new market access measures. Collectively, the finalized PACs and frameworks now cover about 68% of America's $475 billion in two-way trade with ASEAN nations, an unprecedented consolidation of U.S. leverage in a region once assumed lost to China's orbit. As some of you may recall, back in July, Trump teased that the early agreements with Indonesia and the Philippines marked the start of a broader Indo-Pacific push. Sunday's signing ceremony appears to have delivered on that promise. For Trump, the moment carried as much weight as the deals themselves. He now heads into his planned meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea, not seeking concessions, but setting the tone for a new Indo-Pacific order. Okay, coming up in the back of the brief, 2 U.S. Navy aircraft crash within minutes of each other in the South China Sea. I'll have more on that when we come back. Hey, Mike Baker here. Let me take just a moment, if I could, to talk about, personal finances. That's an important topic. Now, I suspect you've noticed that the cost of everything is still, frankly, too high. And many folks have been relying on credit cards to cover the essentials. If that debt is piling up for you, well, you're not alone. Listen to this. Americans collectively owe over $1 trillion in credit card debt. So, now, you might have already considered reaching out to my friends over at American Financing, but perhaps you hesitated because you don't want to give up your low mortgage rate. Well, there's some good news. The American Financing folks have created what they call the Smart Equity Loan. Now, it's a solution designed to help you take control of your finances without touching your current mortgage. Unlike a HELOC, which can have varied interest rates, the Smart Equity Loan offers a fixed rate, and that means one predictable monthly payment giving you peace of mind. This loan allows you to leverage the equity in your home to pay off high-interest debt, free up your cash flow, and keep your existing low mortgage rate intact. It only takes 10 minutes to get started with no upfront or hidden fees. Call American Financing today and start saving. 866-885-1881. That number again, 866-885-1881. Or just visit americanfinancing.net/PDB. In today's Back of the Brief, 2 U.S. Navy aircraft went down within half an hour of each other in the South China Sea. According to the Navy's Pacific Fleet, a fighter jet and a helicopter, both operating from the aircraft carrier, the USS Nimitz, crashed on Sunday during separate operations. The 3 crew members aboard the MH-60R Seahawk helicopter were rescued shortly after the crash, and the 2 aviators flying the FA-18F Super Hornet ejected safely. All 5 service members are in stable condition. The incidents occurred roughly 30 minutes apart, about 300 miles west of the Philippines. The Navy says there's no indication that the crashes were related, and both aircraft went down during routine operations. Recovery efforts for the wreckage are underway, and an investigation is ongoing. While accidents at sea are not uncommon, losing 2 aircraft in such quick succession is highly unusual, and it's drawing attention at a time when U.S. naval activity in the region is already under a microscope. China was quick to respond to the incidents. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said it had, quote, taken note of the reports, adding that if Washington requests assistance, Beijing is, quote, willing to provide necessary help from a humanitarian perspective. But that goodwill, well, came with a sharp edge. A Foreign Ministry spokesperson also used the moment to criticize what he called America's growing military presence in the South China Sea, saying, quote, the frequent dispatch of U.S. warships and aircraft to flex its muscles is the root cause of maritime security issues and undermines regional peace and stability, end quote. That comment echoes Beijing's broader strategy, offering cooperation on humanitarian grounds while blaming U.S. patrols for regional instability. The Nimitz has been part of stepped-up carrier operations in the Pacific, meant to reassure allies and deter China's increasingly assertive naval forces around the Philippines and the Taiwan Strait. And that, my friends, is the President's Daily Brief for Tuesday, the 28th of October. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And I hope you'll take a minute or two to check out our juggernaut of a YouTube channel. You can find that on YouTube, of course, at President's Daily Brief. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back later today with the PDB Afternoon Bulletin. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool. Hey, Mike Baker here with a great offer from the folks over at Birch Gold Group. Now you can buy gold and listen to this, get free silver, right? It's right. For every $5,000 purchased from Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they'll send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. Look, gold is up some 40% just since the beginning of this year, and Birch Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they'll send you free silver honoring our veterans on qualifying purchases. And if you're current or former military, Birch Gold has a special offer just for you. They're waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, many of whom, frankly, are PDB listeners, I encourage you to talk with Birch Gold to see if diversifying into gold is right for you. Just text PDB to the number 989-898 for a free information kit and to claim your eligibility for free silver with a qualifying purchase before the end of the month. Again, it's simple. Text PDB to 989-898.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.